think back to your very first mobile phone. Remember how clunky it was?
Oh, yeah. Mine was a brick.
Exactly. Limited functions, terrible battery, probably. Now, fast forward to today when Dream is still using it, right? It's totally obsolete.
Not a chance.
So this got us thinking. If we upgrade our personal tech so readily, why are these huge organizations, even critical infrastructure, still relying on technology that's, well, sometimes older than the internet itself?
That's exactly the paradox we're diving into today. We're doing a deep dive into the surprising endurance of legacy systems.
Right, those older hardware and software setups.
Exactly, the ones still running vital operations across major industries. Our sort of mission here is to understand the compelling reasons why they stick around, and we're looking at recent analyses and reports to get a handle on this complex picture.
And it's not small players we're talking about. Our sources point to, like, stock exchanges. Their core systems are maybe 25 years old on average. Government agencies, some running critical stuff on tech that's, get this, half a century old.
50 years. It's incredible.
Financial institutions, similar boat, platforms 50 years old or even more. And the airline industry, systems from the 90s often have even older code underneath. A lot of it in COBOL.
Yeah, COBOL.
Yeah.
Developed back in the early 1960s. Still running parts of the show.
So the big question, the one driving our whole exploration today is, given how old and, potentially problematic these systems are, why are they still everywhere? What keeps them going?
Okay, let's start unpacking that. Reason number one, and it's a big one, is cost.
The money. Always comes down to money, doesn't it?
Pretty much. These legacy systems, they involved huge initial investments. We're talking hardware, software development, years and years of maintenance.
It's like that feeling when you've spent a ton on something, you don't want to just ditch it, even if it's starting to creak a bit.
Exactly that. But the real kicker, the thing people maybe miss, are the hidden long-term costs.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, maintaining them means constant security patches, right?
Yeah.
Often you need these really complicated workarounds just to make them talk to newer tech. And over time, these costs, they just accumulate. They can actually end up being way more than the original price tag.
So it's like you're avoiding one big bill now, but paying way more in smaller bills over the years, and stifling innovation, too.
Precisely. It's this tension. The upfront cost of a modern cloud system might look scary,
Yeah.
but our sources really emphasize the potential for long-term savings. Plus, you get flexibility. It's almost like that sunk cost fallacy playing out on a massive scale.
Right, you've already put so much in, you feel you have to keep going.
And you see how much this drains resources when you look at budgets. Reports suggest in airlines, in banking, a huge chunk of the IT budget, sometimes up to 80%, is just keeping the old lights on.
80%? Wow, that leaves barely anything for, new stuff, for actually improving things.
Exactly. Minimal resources left for innovation.
Okay, so cost is a huge factor. But it's not just the money, right? These systems are, like, woven into the very fabric of these places.
Absolutely. Which brings us to reason number two. They're mission critical, and there's a lot of perceived risk in replacing them.
Mission critical meaning they absolutely cannot fail.
Pretty much. They're fundamental to the core business processes. Over decades, many have been heavily customized, tailored for really specific, unique business needs.
So they're not off-the-shelf things.
Not at all. And this deep integration makes ripping them out seem incredibly risky. Any hiccup during a replacement could cause massive disruption.
Yeah, I can imagine the fear. You mess up the replacement for an airline system, flights get grounded, stock exchange, billions lost, market chaos. It's that if it ain't broke, don't fix it idea, but maybe taken too far when broke means vulnerable or inefficient.
It is. Though it's interesting, modern cloud migration approaches are actually designed specifically to handle this kind of risk.
Oh, how so?
Through really careful planning, risk assessments, specialized tools, these transitions can be managed with a lot of precision. The goal is minimal, if any, interruption to those critical operations.
Okay, that makes sense. But then who actually knows how these old systems work anymore? That feels like another hurdle, the expertise gap.
That's reason number three, exactly. Many organizations rely heavily on a handful of employees who've just been there forever, who know all the quirks.
The institutional knowledge holders.
Right. And finding new people or retraining existing staff for modern cloud stuff, that looks expensive and time-consuming too.
It's like needing a blacksmith in the age of 3D printing. And didn't you mention COBOL earlier? Our sources specifically flagged the shrinking number of COBOL programmers, especially in airlines and banking.
Yes, that's a critical point. These experienced folks are retiring, and fewer new people are learning it. So who maintains and updates these core systems? It's a real problem.
Okay, so what's the solution there?
Well, this is where external help comes in. Cloud migration service providers, they bring that specialized expertise. They handle the tricky technical bits of the move.
Ah, so you outsource the expertise gap.
In a way, yes. It lets the company focus on its main business.
Okay, so we have cost, the mission-critical nature, the expertise gap. What else keeps these old systems running? Vendor lock-in sounds like a big one.
Reason 4, and yes, it's a significant barrier. Over the years, companies got locked into long-term deals with specific vendors for the legacy hardware and software.
Like a really sticky contract you can't get out of.
Pretty much. This dependency makes switching to a new system, or even just a different vendor, really hard and often very expensive.
It feels like being stuck with an old cable package you hate, but breaking the contract costs a fortune. Is the cloud world different there?
Generally, yes. That's a key advantage. Modern cloud systems are usually built on open standards. That makes it much easier to integrate things, to connect different services. You're less tied to one single vendor.
More freedom, more flexibility. Okay, now let's talk security. Any big IT change raises fears about data. That's reason 5, right? Concerns about data and security during migration.
Absolutely a valid concern. Moving huge amounts of sensitive data from systems that have been running for ages.
Yeah.
It definitely makes people worry about data loss or breaches or other vulnerabilities popping up during the switch.
There might even be this feeling that the old system, just because it's old and familiar, is somehow inherently safer.
There could be that perception. But the reality, and our sources really hammer this home, can be the opposite.
Oh, how so?
These older systems often lack modern security basics. Things like strong encryption, multi-factor authentication. They might have known bugs that were never patched because it was too hard or support ended.
So they're actually more vulnerable to today's threats.
Often, yes. Significantly more vulnerable. Modern cloud platforms, on the other hand, are built with security as a top priority. Think end-to-end encryption, constant monitoring, regular updates against new threats.
So a well-managed migration could actually boost security.
Definitely. If it's planned and executed properly, with security built in at every step, it can be a major security upgrade.
Okay, so sometimes the attitude is just, look, it still basically works. Why rock the boat? That's our next point. Number 6, acknowledging they might still handle basic tasks.
Right. And on the surface, that logic seems, well, reasonable. Why spend all that money and deal with the disruption if the thing is still, technically, doing its job?
But there are hidden costs here too, aren't there?
Huge hidden costs. This perspective often ignores things like slower performance, the need for lots of manual work because there's no automation.
Right.
And crucially, these old systems just can't scale up. They can't easily adapt as the business grows or changes. So yeah, they might be running, but they're often a drag on efficiency, a drag on growth.
So the cost isn't a big invoice, but it's there in lost productivity, missed opportunities.
Exactly. It's an ongoing operational cost, even if it's not a line item on a capital expenditure request. Got it. Now, what about industries with really strict rules, regulations? Reason 7 is navigating compliance, right? Sometimes sticking with the old system feels safer from a regulatory standpoint.
That's an understandable worry. A legacy system might have been designed way back when to meet those regulations, and it has a proven track record.
So there's this fear that a new system might complicate things, might make it harder to prove you're following all the rules for data, security, record keeping, whatever it is.
It's the comfort of the known devil, perhaps? But again, modern cloud providers are usually very focused on this.
They have to be, I guess.
They really do. Reputable providers make it a priority to meet industry-specific regulations. They often build in the latest security and compliance features from the ground up. So moving to the cloud can actually strengthen your compliance posture, not weaken it.
Interesting. Okay, another huge challenge must be all the custom stuff built into these old systems over the years. That's reason 8. The complexity of customization. Yeah, this one's particularly tricky. Over years, even decades, these systems get heavily modified. Bespoke features, unique integrations are built just for that one company's specific way of doing things.
So replacing it isn't just about finding a new system, it's about figuring out if the new system can even do all those unique things the old one did.
Exactly. There's a real worry that a new platform just won't support that same level of intense customization or won't integrate smoothly with everything else. Replicating all that custom work sounds like a nightmare.
It does sound daunting. Is it possible?
It's complex, no doubt. But modern cloud platforms also offer significant customization options. It's often possible, with careful planning and execution, to replicate that essential custom functionality
Okay.
while also gaining all the benefits of the modern platform, like better performance and scalability.
All right. Now, the thing that probably keeps IT managers up at night, downtime. Reason 9, the fear of everything grinding to a halt during the switch.
Absolutely. Downtime is a massive concern. Any significant outage hits productivity, annoys customers, costs real money. And because these legacy systems have often been chugging along for years, they have this perceived stability.
Even if it's a fragile stability because they're so old.
Right. Nobody wants to be the one who pulls the plug and suddenly, planes can't fly or trades can't happen because the migration went wrong.
But you mentioned earlier that modern migrations try to minimize this.
Yes, that's a key focus. Modern strategies involve meticulous planning, lots of testing, often phased rollouts. The goal is to transition smoothly with minimal or ideally zero disruption to the business. Ensuring continuity is paramount.
Okay, last main reason on our list, number 10. Good old-fashioned budget constraints. Sometimes the money just isn't there for a big overhaul.
It's a common reality. Limited IT budgets mean that the big upfront cost of a full migration can just seem impossible, unaffordable.
But as we discussed with the hidden costs, maybe that's short-sighted.
It can be. It's crucial to look beyond just that initial price tag. The key insight here is the total cost of ownership over the long run.
Right, because cloud solutions can potentially save money later on maintenance, hardware, maybe support, and you can scale up or down as needed.
Exactly. Lower maintenance, no need to keep buying and housing physical servers, paying only for the resources you actually use. While the initial investment might be large, the long-term financial picture can look very different, often making the move a sound decision financially.
Okay, so those are 10 pretty compelling reasons why these old systems stick around. Let's maybe look at how this plays out in specific industries, stock exchanges, for instance.
Right. Stock exchanges are a fascinating case. We touched on it, but the sheer volume of transactions is incredible. And the speed needed. We're talking microseconds.
Wow.
So for them, stability and reliability are absolutely non-negotiable. Even a tiny glitch, a flicker of downtime, can mean billions in losses and destabilize markets.
That's immense pressure. And our sources mention the intense regulations, the complex web of connections between different systems creating systemic risk, and that technical debt years of quick fixes instead of proper upgrades.
It's like trying to upgrade a jet engine while the plane is flying at full speed. So, understandably, they tend to be very cautious. Modernization happens, but it's usually slow, incremental, step by step. Risk mitigation is everything.
Okay, what about government agencies? You mentioned systems up to 50 years old for things like taxes and healthcare.
Yes, the age there is just staggering. These systems are integral to really critical public functions. There is a trend towards modernization, a recognition of the need. But our sources don't really give a lot of specifics on how they're doing it. The sheer scale and, frankly, bureaucracy involved in government IT probably adds whole other layers of complexity.
Makes sense. Okay, let's circle back to financial institutions. We talked cost and talent, but what else is going on there with legacy tech?
Well, a big issue is operational inefficiency. Think about old batch processing systems. They just can't keep up with the real-time demands of modern finance. Everything feels sluggish.
And integrating new tech, like AI or blockchain, must be tough.
Very difficult. Plus, those cybersecurity vulnerabilities we discussed are a huge concern in finance. And keeping up with constantly changing regulations on old platforms is a nightmare.
And customers probably notice, right, compared to slick fintech apps.
Absolutely. Customer experience suffers. So banks are trying various things, phased modernization, moving some things to the cloud, trying to develop or find talent, especially for things like COBOL, and even partnering with those fintechs to kind of borrow their newer tech.
A multi-pronged approach then. Lastly, the airline industry. Beyond cost and COBOL, what are the unique pressures there?
For airlines, it's all about safety-critical operations.
Yeah.
Flight scheduling, communicating with air traffic control, baggage handling. These systems cannot fail catastrophically.
The stakes are incredibly high. Disruptions mean grounded flights, stranded passengers, huge financial hits like we've seen sometimes.
Exactly. And their systems are incredibly interconnected. One change can have ripple effects everywhere. So, like stock exchanges, a big bang replacement is just too risky.
So they're also doing the phased approach, slowly bringing in AI, cloud, but maybe not as fast as some would like.
That seems to be the strategy, yes.
Yeah.
Investing more, but cautiously. And just to give a sense of how widespread this is overall, Figures from late 2024 suggest around two-thirds of companies still rely on legacy apps for core operations.
Two-thirds.
Yeah, and over 60% for things customers interact with. We're not talking small companies either. Think American Express using COBOL for banking, Delta Airlines with a flight system dating back to the 60s, Walmart using mainframes for inventory and sales. It's really common.
Those examples really bring it home. Okay, so wrapping this up, it's clear that legacy systems sticking around isn't just about companies being slow or lazy. It's incredibly complex.
Definitely. It's a mix of the high cost of change, the systems being deeply embedded, the lack of expertise, vendor lock-in, fears about data and downtime, regulations, all that customization.
It all adds up. And while these systems might still work, they often carry these massive hidden costs, security risks, and they really limit how much a company can innovate or grow.
Exactly. They might keep the lights on, but they make it hard to build a brighter future, so to speak.
And we've seen that modernization isn't simple. Different industries have different pressures, different approaches. It's a necessary journey, but a complicated one.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener. We rely so much on technology for everything now, right? So what does it mean for society in the long run that so many of these foundational systems, the ones running banks, airlines, governments, are quietly aging in the background? What questions should we be asking about the future resilience and reliability of this critical infrastructure? Something to think about.